Hey y'all, thanks for stopping in. So I got one here from dailymail.com. Biden releases $7.3 trillion budget, including $850 billion for defense and $11.8 billion for the border. President unveils sweeping plan for 2025 with $5 trillion in tax hikes for billionaires and corporations over 10 years. Typical, right? Democrats want to get the billionaires to pay their fair share. Meanwhile, the billionaires are actually paying more taxes than a lot of Americans will ever earn in their entire lives. Going after these billionaires, who are the people that ultimately build companies, and when they're being overtaxed, they're going to build those companies outside of the country. And when they start these companies up outside of our country, that means that products that we will be buying inside of our country essentially won't be built by Americans. That is not progressing America towards being independent or self-sustaining, which is something that us as individuals should also be trying to do. If you can, if your situation allows, I recommend, which is something that I actually love doing, get yourself some chickens, some egg-laying chickens, and start eating breakfast from your own backyard a couple times a week, if not every day, right? Maybe get a solar generator or two, a couple solar panels, things like that. But I won't get into the whole survival thing. I just think that it relates, right? Us as individuals should be as self-sustaining as possible. It makes us less dependent on the system and the government, who can ruin everything with the passing of a pen, right? The best way to get billionaires to pay more taxes is to actually enable all Americans to thrive within inside of our country. When we all earn more money, it's simple. We all pay more taxes. And you see, that would provide the same outcome as adding more taxes to billionaires, but yet doesn't contain anything as negative as this, right? The president just saying you guys aren't paying enough when they're already paying as much as they are. But I digress. Let's look into the article. President Joe Biden's $7.3 trillion budget includes $11.8 billion in border spending and $850 million for the Pentagon, as it seeks to use the proposal to make the case to voters to give the president a second term. Yeah, give the Pentagon $850 billion a year. I mean, never mind the fact that they fail their audit annually. But I mean, it's almost as much as what we've given to Ukraine, right? I'm joking. I know we haven't given them $850 billion yet. But the White House plans to pay for its ambition agenda, which includes $3 billion for climate change resistance, by imposing about $5 trillion in new taxes on corporations and wealthy over a decade. Something Trump had to fix the first time, but Biden went ahead and ruined. Now he's making it worse. The president's plan would raise taxes by a net total of $4.9 trillion, or more than 7% above what the U.S. would collect. Meanwhile, Americans earning less than $400,000 a year would get tax cuts totaling $750 billion. And those earning above $400,000 a year would see an increased tax on their wages, investment gains, and self-employment income. Well, that's a bullcrap number, honestly. $400,000 a year is middle class. Inflation and interest rates alone have taken care of that. So to me, that number should be around $1 million a year. It seems to me like, you make about $300,000 a year now. That's about the same as making $100,000 a year maybe 20 years ago. We can do all of our investments by asking those in the top 1% and 2% to pay more into the system. Biden's plan is unlikely to become law given Republicans' control of the House, but it will serve as an important message to voters as he seeks to reassure them about his stewardship of the economy and plans to lower the deficit. It will also serve as a contrast between his vision for the country and that of his rival Donald Trump. Well, it certainly serves as a contrast to me. I mean, if your focus as the United States president is to get us out of a deficit, which means paying off, foreign country, China, or the Fed, you haven't taken care of the southern border. We have more people living off of credit than ever before. And you're going to try to tell me that our priority is to have our billionaires pay more taxes? I mean, you say billionaires, but it's really anybody that makes over $400,000 a year. So your plan is to have anybody that makes over $400K a year start working on the deficit. Bro, you crazy. That is not what we need. You are prioritizing the wrong thing. So if you're trying to send a message to voters that you got it under control, how about you actually take control of the southern border? How about you actually lower the cost of prescription drugs, like to the point where Trump had them? Insulin is what I'm actually thinking of directly. Because if you'll remember correct, Trump had insulin to its minimum cost in decades. And Biden came in with the stroke of a pen and insulin went up. He went to work for the big pharma. He went to work for insurance companies. He did not go to work for the American people. So here he is. Now he's going to tax those insurance companies. He's going to tax big pharma because they're the billionaires that he's saying that he's going to tax, right? All these people that work there that make over $400,000 a year individually as well, they're going to now have to pay more. So I don't know what the thinking is on this, because everyday Americans shouldn't want this, with the understanding and knowledge that when big companies get taxed by the government, they just pass that cost along in the price of their goods. So any benefit that you might get from this program, if you're under $400,000, you're just going to have to pay it in goods when you go buy something from the store. You're going to have to make up for the difference. So it really doesn't help us at all as individual Americans. But among Biden's budget proposals, the deficit would be reduced by $3 trillion over a decade. Home buyers would get a tax credit of $9,600 and parents would get a child tax credit. The proposals provided about $900 billion for defense in fiscal 2025, about $16 billion more than the baseline. It includes a 4.5% pay increase for members of the military, but it does not include support to Ukraine, which requires Congress to pass the National Security Supplemental request. The budget also includes a new $4.7 billion Southwest Border Fund to respond to the uncertainty in the U.S.-Mexico border, including responding to migrant surges. The fund would allow the Department of Homeland Security to tap into funds on an as-needed basis when the number of undocumented migrants crossing the southern border tops a certain threshold which has not been specified. No, we don't need more money going to the border to help facilitate these illegal migrants into the country. We need it to go towards deporting the people that have already come here illegally. We need it to go towards stopping the overflow, stopping the inflow, 100%. You want to come to our country legally, go through the proper channels and assimilate to American culture. I'm 100% for it. I love it. But if you want to break into our country by crossing the border illegally, swim across a river, go around some barbed wire, you know what you're doing. You know that you're in a place that you shouldn't belong. And I'm not for any more funds going to the facilitation of that human trafficking. Republicans on Capitol Hill have already refused to fund Biden's $13.6 billion emergency supplemental request to increase border security. Biden's plan includes $405 million to hire 1,300 additional Border Patrol agents, $239 million to hire 1,000 additional U.S. Customs and Border Protection (CBP) officers to help stop fentanyl and contraband from entering the United States, and $775 million to hire an additional 1,600 asylum officers to support staff to facilitate timely immigration dispositions. Like I said, they want to just hire more people to help facilitate the overflow of people coming into our country. They don't want to stop it. They want to actually spend 405, 239, and 755, which is $1.4 billion into hiring people that are going to help facilitate the illegal immigration to your country. Yeah, not good. Not for it. Biden's plan also asked Congress to apply his $2,000 cap on drug costs and $35 insulin to everybody, not just people who have Medicare. That's something that Trump already had in place. He wants Medicare to have the ability to negotiate prices on 500 prescription drugs, which could save $200 billion over 10 years. Other items on the budget: $2.1 billion for weather satellites to maintain the existing fleet of satellites critical for extreme weather forecasts, and invest in next-generation systems that would provide more accurate forecasts to combine the more powerful and frequent storms and extreme weather caused by climate change. Does it have to be caused by climate change, or can it just be monitoring extreme weather? Come on, why do you got to include climate change in there? You just got to have it in there, right? So stupid. $2.9 billion for the Secret Service, which includes $70 million for security related to the 2024 presidential campaign and inauguration, and $16 million to begin security preparations for the 2026 World Cup. $7.8 billion for the Artemis program, which would bring astronauts, including the first woman, first people of color, first international astronauts, to the lunar surface as part of a long-term journey of science and exploration. So they want to spend $7.8 billion to send DEI hires to the moon. I'm sorry, but when you have things specific, first woman, first people of color, and first international astronauts, I mean, come on, man. The goal is to get people on a space station or on the moon, right? At the moon. Who cares what they look like? Believe in the moon landing or not, but the phrase is one small step for man and a giant leap for mankind. It's about mankind when you reach something like that. But it also offers universal pre-kindergarten education and provides 12 weeks of paid family and medical leave. The president pushes to shore up the Social Security fund, but doesn't offer specifics. Yeah, right, of course. I mean, it's an afterthought. I mean, at least they mentioned it, but nobody ever wants to take up Social Security. Nobody ever takes care of the American worker. No president ever seems to worry about the American worker's retirement. They just pass the buck when it comes to Social Security. Meanwhile, they will sign a bill that sends hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars to other countries. Where's the bill injecting that cash into our Social Security so people my age can have a little bit more peace of mind that when it comes time for us to retire and collect that Social Security that we've been paying into our entire lives, that it will actually be there. The threat of all these, and that's never mind all these illegal immigrants that are coming across the border, these illegal migrants that are coming across the border who American officials are working to get them on work programs and other programs involved with our government that I see at the end of the tunnel people being on these same people ending up on Social Security, right? Being able to vote, being on Social Security, regardless of what age they were when they came into the country, by the way. I started working when I was 16. I've been paying into it since I was 16. It's not right to have a person come over here into this country, break their way into the country illegally, and then get government assistance to the point where not only are their daily needs taken care of with government funds covering their cost of living, food, travel, and then giving the American people the excuse that these are our new wave of workers, right? What is it about this scenario that tells anybody that a person being catered to, free money, free room and board, free food, is somehow going to want to go work? I mean, that's already a problem we have existing in the country with welfare and things like that. I don't have a problem with welfare, but yes, there are scenarios where people will choose to stay on welfare rather than to go work. Able-bodied people that could go work just say, I'll live within my means here and make my cash on the side or whatever to have my fun with. I mean, I think our country has a long enough history to establish that is what happens. So no, I'm not buying that the criminal migrants coming across the border are going to be these willful, willing workers. Continuing, he also targets the wealthy. So yeah, the wealthy are going to be voting for Biden too, right? I mean, this is a nonsense plan. It almost seems like he tried to leave a mess for Trump because he knows Trump is going to win. But the plan would raise the corporate tax rate to 28% from 21%. I mean, wow, 21 to 28%. That is a huge percentage. And I'm sure that won't cost individuals their jobs. Biden also proposes a new minimum tax on large corporations and quadrupling a tax on stock buybacks with the goal of raising more revenue from the big businesses and the wealthy to pay down the country's debt. That is not right. The government should conduct better business to get the country out of debt, fix their spending, that type of thing, rather than just tell corporations they're going to have to pay a 7% increase in corporate tax than they did last year. What a dagger. During the last 3 years, the national debt has risen from $27.8 trillion to $34.4 trillion. The budget builds on what Biden outlined in the State of the Union address last week, and this week he'll hit the road, traveling to 3 battleground states, New Hampshire, Wisconsin, and Michigan, to sell his plan. An NBC News poll last month found voters trust Trump more on economic matters by 20 points. And a CBS/YouGov poll in February found that 55% said Biden's policies would make prices more expensive, while only 34% said that of Trump's policies. His budget seeks to reassure a nervous electorate. Its proposals are designed to appeal to the middle class, parents, students, and those against climate change. And I'll just say that I don't understand how that applies to the middle class. In my opinion, if you make less than $1 million a year, you're middle class in America, at least nowadays. Biden will paint Trump as the opposite, in favor of tax cuts for the wealthy. Well, yeah, he'll give tax cuts to the wealthy, who then, like his first term, when hired a bunch of people who then had a bunch of extra money in their pockets all the way around. And guess what? More taxes are generated when you have more people paying into the pool. You don't have to just get it from the one big corporate entity. It doesn't work the way that Democrats say that it does. Quote, no billionaire should pay a lower tax rate than a teacher, a sanitation worker, a nurse, he said in the State of the Union address last week. And they don't. They pay millions of dollars to professionals to work within the legal system. You know, if you want to make it better for the middle class, why don't you give us access to all the tax benefits that these folks are enjoying? Because rest assured, the billionaires are paying more taxes than these teachers, sanitation workers, and nurses are making in their lifetimes. So let's not be confused. And let's not also confuse wealth with actual dollars in the bank, right? Taxing somebody's wealth when it's all wrapped up in assets forces a person to sell one of their assets to pay their taxes. That is a spiral where the person ends up with nothing and the government ends up with everything. Because if they don't pay those taxes, then the government just seizes the property or seizes the whatever, right? Quote, do you really think the wealthy and big corporations need another $2 trillion in tax breaks? I sure don't. I'm going to keep fighting like hell to make it fair, he noted. I'll just question your definition of the word fair and fairness. House Republicans have passed their own budget proposal that would massively cut government spending, undo the Inflation Reduction Act, and kill the Affordable Health Care Plan. Well, that sounds good to me. And just as Biden won't sign the Republican budget into law, they won't pass his on Capitol Hill. So it's a bunch of political leaders that we elected, that we pay millions and millions of dollars to collectively, spinning their wheels on bullcrap that they know won't pass in the end. Wasting days, wasting hours, wasting weeks that they could have spent on something that is actually going to be accepted, right? Something that will pass. Speaker Mike Johnson said the president's budget is yet another glaring reminder of the administration's insatiable appetite for reckless spending and the Democrats' disregard for fiscal responsibility. That is a roadmap to accelerate America's decline. And it absolutely is. The Democrat way, the liberal way, right, spend more, is to just throw money at a problem, not to think about an actual solution. Meanwhile, Congress is still trying to fund the government for this year. On Saturday, Biden signed into law a $460 billion package to avoid a shutdown of several federal agencies, but lawmakers are only about halfway through addressing spending for this fiscal year. You know, I got an idea. How about mass layoffs? Let's make government smaller. Less to take care of within the government. Frees up money that you can take care of the people. I don't know. I'm just tired of these political leaders on both sides up there at Capitol Hill doing busy work, not working for the people. They're just doing nonsense. And to me, if these people don't have any fruits to show for their labor, they should be fired. Their job should be dissolved. Their positions should be dissolved. But to me, this is a good example of what Democrat leadership proposes, wants to do with your tax dollars. Whether it be a president, a governor, a mayor, whatever. These folks don't look out for Americans first. And that is something that all Americans should agree on. America first, make sure that we're all good. And then from there, we can have a strong base that we've built. And on top of that base, we can spread out and do more. But for now, America is reeling. We are on a path to becoming a third world country. And I don't want to see us get to that point, right? And I hope you don't either. And if you agree with that, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys in the next one.